Hi guys, and welcome to another episode of Tipsy Goat. My name is Edwin Bauer, and today we're looking at a commander from the Absen precon in Tarkir Dragon Storm. We're not gonna look at the precon, we're just gonna build this commander as strong as we can. Before we dive right in, I want you to close your eyes with me. When you think of green, white, black, what comes to mind? It might be counters, it might be life gain, it might be life loss. It might be tokens, well, skip the tokens. But all the other things, yes. Betor, Ancestor's Voice, is a 5 mana Absen commander with flying and lifelink that says at the beginning of your end step, put a number of +1/+1 counters on up to one other target creature you control equal to the amount of life you gained this turn. Return up to one target creature card with mana value less than or equal to the amount of life you lost this turn from your graveyard to the battlefield. So Betor wants you to gain some life, put counters on some creatures, lose some life as well, so you can reanimate something at the end of your turn. So when building Betor, you're probably gonna build some life gain, you're probably gonna build some counter payoff, maybe some life loss, maybe some reanimation, but we are not gonna mill, we're not gonna discard a lot. So we are mostly looking for life gain in our deck, some payoffs for getting counters, and some really cool targets to reanimate. So obviously, if you want to do all that, we're gonna build mid-range. We're going to have a lot of card draw, we're going to have a lot of ramp. We're not gonna have the most control, but we are definitely having answers, and we're gonna have a lot of protection. We're not gonna be the fastest, but we're gonna have threats throughout our entire game. So to paint you a picture of what's going on, let's look at the key cards. First of all, we obviously want some life gain, so think of Soul Warden that triggers whenever a creature enters the battlefield, but also think of Odric Lunarch Marshal that gives all your creatures flying and lifelink as long as your commander's out there. After we gain some life, Betor will put counters on some of our creatures. So we obviously have counters payoff in Cleopatra Exiled Pharaoh, that whenever a creature dies, for the amount of counters you put on it, you draw that many cards. Arwen, Weaver of Hope, put 5 counters on Arwen if you've gained 5 life, and the next time a creature enters, it enters with 5 additional counters on it. Since we are gaining life, we're also gonna have life gain payoff, of course. Archangel of Thune says whenever you gain life, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. So yeah, if you have a Soul Warden out, 2 creatures enter, and all your creatures get 2 +1/+1 counters. But my favorite life gain payoff is Ajani, Strength of the Pride. Ajani says if you have at least 15 life more than your starting life total, exile Ajani and each artifact and creature your opponents control. So basically just a one-sided board wipe. He does other good stuff as well, so you're not just waiting until your life is at least at 55. But if you already have 55 life, you just slam it down straight away and you have a one-sided board wipe. Now, of course, we're gonna have some life loss. My favorite card, and if your heart is black, it's gonna be yours as well. Hatred. It lets you pay any amount of life to give a creature you control +X. Since Betor has lifelink, if it doesn't get destroyed, you can say let's give it +20, knock someone out straight away, and you also get 20 life back. You obviously lost 20 life already, so you're gonna be able to reanimate something, and you're also going to put 20 counters on a creature you control. Insane. Another cool card is Beledros Witherblown that says at the beginning of each upkeep, create a pest, but the most important thing, pay 10 life, untap all lands you control. So a lot of ramp, and instantly pay 10 life to make sure you can reanimate any target in your deck. And my favorite card from the Duskmourn set, Valgavoth Terror Eater. During your turn, you may play cards exiled with Valgavoth. If you cast spell this way, pay life equal to its mana value rather than pay its mana cost. So if a card you didn't control would be put into an opponent's graveyard from anywhere, exile it instead, and at that moment you can just cast all of them, lose a bunch of life, but you're a life gain deck, so you're gonna get it back, and yeah, really have a lot of value there. Your end step, you've lost some life, you're gonna want to reanimate some stuff. Of course, you can reanimate the big targets we just seen, Valgavoth and Beledros. but you could also reanimate a Selfless Spirit or Boromir, Warden of the Tower, that says sacrifice Boromir. Creatures you control gain indestructible until end of turn during Tempshu. So you can sack this guy, give all your things indestructible, and at the end step get him back. So this way you'll basically always have something to counter a board wipe that's coming. So now that you've seen some of the keycards, let's take a look at the deck. We have 3 board wipes. We have 5 cards that do something when you put counters. We have a couple of ways to discard. Of course, we're gonna have a lot of draw. 36 lands, 13 pieces of Lifegain, 9 pieces to lose life, a couple of mill cards, 2 protection pieces, a lot of ramp, 2 recursion pieces, only 2 because we are not a mill deck, or a recursion deck, 8 pieces of removal. And if you want to get some more inspiration, you can also look through my maybe board, where there are a lot of cards that didn't really fit the deck because maybe the slots were already filled or they're just a little bit too expensive. But they are very cool cards, so definitely take a look there. Now let's have a closer look at the deck. First of all, you're gonna want to gain some life. As we said, we have Soul Warden, we have Essence Warden, we have Daxos, Ajani's Welcome, and Case of the Uneaten Feast that also lets you sacrifice the case and give creatures. You may cast this card from your graveyard until end of turn, which is pretty cool. Sarah Ascendant, just very, very cool. Bloodthirsty Conqueror, whenever an opponent loses life, you gain that much life. Archangel, of course, has lifelink on its own. Now, as we said, we had some counters payoff. The Ozolith just lets you keep all the counters, even when the creatures die. Bristly Bale says whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, put a counter on target creature. You can also pay 5 to double the number of +1/+1 counters on each creature you control. It doesn't require you to tap it, so you could do it multiple times in a turn. Arwen we have seen. Brina says whenever a player attacks one of your opponents, if that opponent has more life than another of your opponents, that attacking player draws a card and you put 2 +1/+1 counters on a creature you control. So your opponents can trigger it, you can put counters on stuff and draw a card, or you can trigger it yourself. Now, of course, we have some ways to lose life. As you can see, those are all gray, meaning they have another category as well. So that is the magic in this deck. Use a lot of cards that you can put into multiple categories, so you can fill everything that Betor needs. Dark Confident lets you draw a card, lose life. Same for Keen Duelist. Sylvan Library, the same, but you pay 4 life instead of a variation. Darkstar Augur is a new variation on Dark Confident, but for 4 mana you can have 2 Dark Confidents. Doom Whisperer says pay to life, Surveil 2. So you can fill your graveyard, but you can also pay just any amount that you need to reanimate your creature. Hatred, obviously very cool. Bolas Citadel, I like to avoid game changers when I can, but this deck is a life gain deck and it wants you to pay life. So Bolas Citadel is just perfect here. You can play the top card of your library. If you cast a spell this way, pay life equal to its converted mana cost rather than pay its mana cost. We all know it, we've all seen it. It's just very, very strong. And Belliclos and Witherbloom let you pay life to play your opponent's spells or untap all lands you control. If we've lost life, we want some ways to get our favorite creature in the graveyard. Putrid Imp says discard a card from your hand, it gains flying. So this is just a discard whenever you like. Tortured Existence is pretty cool because for a black and by discarding a creature card, you can return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. So you can put any creature card you want in there for just 1 black mana and get another one back. And Veil of Bogardan, a very old card. If you play CDH, you probably know this one very well. If you haven't played CDH, this one might be a little weird, so stick with me. 2 mana artifact says each player skips his or her discard phase. And during each player's draw phase, the player draws an additional card and then chooses and discards a card. So Anvil lets us discard a card every turn. With the Triumph, as an additional cost to cast a spell, discard a card to pay 3 life. And Dark Deal, basically a Windfall, but draw that many cards -1. Now, and then we have 14 pieces to draw cards. Most of them you will already have seen because they do something with counters or they make you lose life. or they fill your graveyard. Now we do have a couple of mill cards. First off, Mesmeric Orb, my favorite card. Whenever I need a mill card, you're gonna see it. Cemetery Tampering, that says at the beginning of your upkeep, you may mill 3. Then if there are 20 or more, you may play the exiled card without paying its mana cost because it has Hideaway 5. So you look at top 5, exile 1, and later on you can play it for free. Greater Good says sacrifice creature, draw cards equal to the sacrificed creature's power, then this card's free. And Doom Whisper now for ramp, so most of the cards are pretty standard. Kodama is pretty cool, that says modified creatures you control have trample, and whenever a modified creature you control deals combat damage to a player, search your library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle. Your commander has flying, probably gets some counters along the way. Savala says whenever another creature enters the battlefield, its controller may draw a card if its power is greater than each other creature's power. Might not be the case, but it also says pay a green and tap it. Add X mana of any combination of colors, where X is the greatest power among creatures you control. So you attack with Betor, you put a lot of counters on another creature, tap Savala and get a lot of mana. Same for Alchemist, but this one only sees the life gain. So gain 5 life, and you can add X mana of any one color, which would be 5. Finally, we have some removal. I like to pick as many cards as possible that say non-land permanent or permanent. So we have Despark, we have Anguish Unmaking, Beast Within, Generous Gift, and Stroke of Midnight. And then we have Bitter Triumph because of the discard card, and Swords because it's just too good. And finally we have 3 board wipes. Toxic Deluge, that lets you lose life again. Ajani for the life gain, and Damning Verdict that says destroy all creatures with no counters on them. So there you have it, 100 cards for Betor, Ancestor's Voice. Brewing this deck gave me a lot of fun because first of all, you want to pick cards in all your themes instead of just one theme as you normally do for a deck. And after you've picked your favorite cards or cards you think are the best, you are gonna trim down to really balance it. And balancing this commander is really where the magic happens. If you want to see just how good this commander really is, check it here, because Wesley already played it in our first gameplay on Tarkir Dragonstorm, and I can tell you this card is really, really good. I'm giving Betor an A+. Yeah, that is really high. The highest you can get is an S, because, well, yeah, the commander is 5 mana and you need a lot of stuff to make it happen, but all the things you need to make it happen are really good on their own. So if you're drawing only life gain, if you're only drawing life loss, well, yeah, you're not doing all the things your commander wants, but you're still doing a lot of things, and every game will be a bit different because of all the themes. So I really like this commander and all the things you need to do to get it going. I hope you liked this DeckTech and probably Betor Ancestor's Voice by now. For now, I like to thank you for watching and see you on the next one. So before we start this video, I want to remind you that most of the people watching this haven't subscribed yet. If you haven't, it's a really easy and fast way to support the channel and to make sure you're never going to miss a new DeckTech for the upcoming sets.